Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and this time around we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay: Gucci loafers, vintage LL bean bags, Amtrak, and some serious surprises in terms of nostalgic candy, and be on the lookout Christmas vintage items. But first, a few minor points of interest. You will find this and many other interesting items on a subreddit called Mildly Vandalized. And sometimes I like to check out the subreddits on Reddit because you can get some really good information, like on flipping items and things like that. And sometimes when I get a chance, I do hang out on the flipping board and answer questions and read up on what's going on in the world. And so I was flipping through, and of course I saw this, which made me laugh. Finish him! It's like a fatality thing, I guess. Anyway, fatality being from one of those video games. I don't know if you've had relatives that play video games like 5 hours a day, and you can't figure out how on earth they can do that, but they can't pay attention long enough to like pay their bills, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And anyway, so I've just been busy trying to get away from this. I'm in denial. I'm not calling it flu, but some sort of sinus congestion / winter illness. And we are heading into that crazy winter weather. So if you aren't already, bundle up and be ready for it. All right, let's move on and take a look at what's sold. First, I have this Pottery Barn Kids. It's like a, I don't want to say it's a direct red. It's actually some sort of barn rust red color. It's not a Christmas red. Anyway, it's a kid's backpack, and I sold this for $30. Speaking of Pottery Barn, here I have a pair of Pottery Barn Blue Hannah quilted pillowcases, shams. A pair of those, and I sold those for $38, and it took me about 4 months to move those. Now, when I put Pottery Barn up, when I do get lucky enough to find it, sometimes I'll find like pairs of things in the bins, or if I find one Pottery Barn item, I'll hold on to it and add to it and sell it as a lot. And what I try to do is get the pattern name for whatever it is that I'm selling, because often people have, for example, their 3 blue Hannah quilted pillowcases and they want a 4th because something happened to it, like someone vomited on it, or they, some sort of, I'm obsessed with vomit the last 2 weeks. I'm sorry. I have like 3 cats, and for some reason they've all decided to just barf on everything at the same time. I know, like, does it get any grosser than that? But clearly I'm digressing. The point is, if you've ever had like a pair or a set of things and then something gets broken or destroyed for some reason because of your grateful, wonderful family, yeah, then you have to replace it, and putting the pattern name in is very helpful, because then someone can find your item. And of course the other thing is, often eBay forces you to do that anyway, and it's a real pain in the butt, but it's necessary. So anyway, I did sell those for $38. Took me a little under 4 months to do that, and there you have it. This is a JanSport, like a dark green backpack with a suede bottom. They're very popular in the 90s. This one was made in the USA, and I put it up for $35. And would you believe that I had an identical one? I mean, actually, it was exactly the same when I was going to college in the 90s. And anyway, these don't do as well as they used to, and plus this one had some stains, which I disclosed. I had it up for $35. I took a best offer for $24.90, and I shipped that to Florida, and I sold that in about 2.5 months. Here I have Betamax tapes. I put in big bold print, sold as blank. And if you go and look at the solds for Betamax tapes, some of them do amazing. And I was in the Weigh and Go, and someone had given away an entire bin of Betamax. So I went through and I pulled out ones that I thought would do well, and I put these up. Let's see. Well, I sold this in this group. I sold in. Took me a while to move, about 3 months. And the funny thing is, this went to a person who has a TV studio on Ventura Boulevard in California. And I sold these for $30, and I shipped them medium mail. And the funny thing the funny thing about these Betamaxes for me was I listed these for like $75. I know, a little obnoxious, but I did, okay? And I got like the most ridiculous low price offers for best offer, like $10, $12, you know. I never got heckled though. It was weird. I would expect someone would say something, but they never did. But they you know, sent these lowball prices. And I finally, I mean, yes, I know I can adjust that through best offers so that doesn't happen, but I just never get around to it. Anyway, I sold these for $30, and I was happy to see the idea, the concept of putting them up actually work for me, because I don't usually, you'd be surprised to learn that I don't usually do VHS or Betamax, and I could not check these. They did seem, in terms of looking at them, they seemed in good shape, but I had no idea. So I also sold one tape from another lot that I got it was just a great deal all around. But I can't talk about that yet because you know how I am. I'm a little meticulous about making sure things are off eBay before I talk about them, because you know how it is. You have that 0.0001% who get all freaky, and then you got to deal with it. So I have enough drama in my life, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's move on. But as I said, I sold those for $30 to someone who's very happy to have them in California. Moving on to something more decidedly boring but stable in terms of pricing. This is a Nev Designs cow neck alpaca wool sweater, new of tags, and they just put up a ton of stuff on Amazon. And I guess people decided to go look on eBay to see if they could find a lower price, which they did. And I sold this for $49.99. It took me about 2.5 months to move it, and this shipped to California. And here we have the garden variety cotton sweater. This one is from J. Jill. I sold this for $22, and that took me about a month and a half to sell that, ship that to Wisconsin. And here we have a pair of very distressed Calso Earth shoes. These are from the mid-70s. And these were invented by a Danish yoga instructor and was known to have this what they call negative heel technology, which was supposed to cause much less stress on your feet. In other words, the sole issue was thinner at the heel than the forefront, so that when you were wearing them, you were walking heel downward, as when walking in sand. I know that's actually what the advertisement had, and what happened is they had an issue with production of them. They had a huge demand. They couldn't produce them in a timely manner to get them out, and it just ended up being a big disaster. And ultimately, they were bought out by another company. So, long story short, it's actually kind of difficult to find an authentic Calso Earth collaboration. I had high hopes for these. I saw that they did well in the past. Maybe mine were too distressed. I ended up taking a best offer for $25, and that took me under 2 months to move. And I guess next time I won't be so confident. I did list them for $69, but I don't know. I just thought about it. You know, the money was there on the table. Why not take it? So out it went. Here we have another bread and butter item. I like buying the Sac brand leather items when I can. I'll once in a while pick up the Sac woven items, and that's how Sac originally became known. But I find that their leather items do fairly well, and they sell stably over time, meaning that if I pick one up, you know, I'm 80% sure at some point it's going to sell. And I sold this Sac green leather shoulder bag for $35.99, and it took me about under 3 weeks to sell that. And if you look right now, people are really lowballing prices on these. You don't need to. If you look into Sold, you'll see. I mean, you'll see very similar bags for like $8. I'm just telling you from my experience, you can kind of hold out on these and you can probably get the price that you want, provided that the bag's in good shape, which this one was. And here we have a pair of Sanuk, that's S-A-N-U-K. It's a pair of men's slip-on canvas loafers with an intentionally distressed design to it. And I sold these for $32. It took me about almost 3 months to move these. And here's a very pretty pair of almost matching crocheted purses from probably the mid 40s to beginning of 1950s. They had plastic frames. Those are not celluloid, so they don't go back any earlier than that, but I would say they're probably from the mid to late 40s. And I sold the pair of these had a stain on them, but I was able to move these for $26.99, and it took me about 4.5 months to sell these. Ship these to Illinois. Here we have a very pretty vintage Dansk wooden teak desk letter holder, and I really like Dansk. You just have to be careful when you're selling it, because if it has too many strikes in the wood and there's too many scuffs, it takes a while to move them. So you just have to kind of keep an eye on what you're picking up. I sold this for $39.99. And this went to Brooklyn, New York, and that took me about a month and a half to sell. Another quick comment, it is not meant as a criticism, it's just something that I want you to be aware of. You know, there's a lot of discussion from very experienced sellers about keeping up your pipeline and always be posting, and to some extent, that's true. However, here's the caveat, okay? When things slow down, the problem is you can get crushed with fees if you're listing things fixed price. So let's say you have 1,200 items up and you posted maybe, 100 of them to, be rescheduled all at the same time. I mean, at some point eBay wants their money, okay? And eventually eBay, will get you if you're not careful. So if you're going to develop your pipeline, you always have to be conscious of the fact that you have to always be thinking about thinning the herd and culling your inventory and getting some of the dead weight out. Because if you don't, especially when things slow down, then you're going to be faced with these huge eBay bills, and your profits are going to end up only paying your eBay bills and not supporting you. So you have to find a mix that works, and always think of the fact that, okay, let's say optimistically I post 100 items and I sell 60% of them, within 30 days or so. I mean, as you can even think about that, how realistic is that for everybody? But you're going to have to deal with not the back end, but you're going to have to deal with the stuff that's going to sit for a while, and, it could cost you money. And I just want you to be aware of that so that it doesn't bite you in the butt, because even with the best of us, and I wouldn't say I'm the best, but I don't consider myself a slouch, it can be a rude awakening to be like, yay, I made this money. Oh no, fees. So give it some thought. And of course, if you're going to stress out over that, then you better be selling some of these. This is a pharmaceutical rep mug, Prozac, and I sold this for $20. Took me about a month and a half to move. Here I have a lap blanket. It's a vintage wool blanket by Cardyke. Very nice, very good condition. Measured about 37 inches wide by 42 inches long. And it took me less than a month to sell that, and I sold it for $42.99. And of course, I very rarely do a video where I don't have something Ralph Lauren related selling. And this is a Polo Ralph Lauren Madras leather belt. I sold this for $30.99 on a best offer, and I shipped that to Fairfax, Virginia. It took me, actually this one took me a little longer than normal, but I sold this in under 2 months. Here we have one of those very small Prada, I don't want to say nylon, but they're like a fabric. I guess they are nylon or a nylon blend. One of those Prada bags from the mid-90s. Very small, was only about 9 inches wide. You can tell Prada, for me, is easier to authenticate than a lot of other brands because of the lining. The way that the lining runs is a clear indicator of authenticity. And here we have an authentic Prada. I put this up for $44.99, took a best offer for $35.99, and sold this in under 3 weeks. Here we have an Amtrak hat with an embroidered front of the train and a U.S. flag. And I sold this for $24.99. Took me about 2.5 months to sell that. This is an extremely cheesy looking souvenir vintage sailor yacht hat or cap with an embroidered anchor design on the front there, and is clearly a souvenir. I sold this, I mean, it was really flimsy. I kind of hemmed and hawed about even posting it because I saw a whole bunch of them from China selling for like $8, but I'm like, oh well, we'll see what happens. You know, I can tell it's a souvenir hat. It's somewhere on the East Coast. That's what I basically said about it. And surprisingly, I got my asking price for it, which was $34.99, and I sold that in under 8 days. When I can, and if the look of the design on the water bottle is right, I like to pick up vintage water bottles. This is a vintage Nike swoosh water bottle made in the USA, and has a nice patriotic look to it. You know, very simple but nice design to it, good shape. And I sold this for $22, and that took me a little under 4 months to move. Here we have a vintage LL Bean, very large canvas bag. This is from their boat and tote line, and it has the cursive label on it. If you go and look at sold auctions for this specific type of LL Bean bag, you will be like, holy heck. They do extremely well, especially if you're patient. However, there's a catch. If you're going to get, I mean, some of them are going between, on average, anywhere between 80 up to and beyond $200 a bag. However, there's a catch. They have to have a very specific thing about them. First of all, most of them have, like, if you look at the bags, they'll have this blue selvage stitching on it. And the LL Bean label has to be either very vintage or in the cursive design, which mine had. And my bag had the boat and tote written also on the tag. And it's one of the larger bags here that I had. It was a 22 inch wide by about 15 tall. Sometimes they were called the Ratsey, R-A-T-S-E-Y, by LL Bean people. This one was actually pretty worn. The side corners were scuffed pretty badly. Had some frays and marks from use. However, they still go for a lot of money. I actually found mine at the weigh and go, and I found 3 of them at the same time. So I'm keeping 2. Well, I might sell one more. But I love these bags. I mean, you can just beat the crap out of them. And I know that even though they're doing well, I like them. They're great to carry things around in. They can take a beating, and anything that can take a beating in my house deserves to hang around for a while. But anyway, I did list this for $200, and ultimately I let it go for $80, and I sold that in under 3 weeks. And finally for this week, I have a pair of Gucci loafers with the horsebit gold tone metal hardware, but they're in pretty crappy shape. They're pretty worn. Nonetheless, I did get $100 for these, and that took me about 2 weeks to sell. Time for some candy. If you're holding on to those lifesaver holes from the 90s, you too can get a one bid of $89.95. So pretty amazing. And you know, you've seen those. So you know, if you're aunt was a hoarder, or someone that just kept stuff for many, many, many years, you might want to check those out, see if they have these, because you could sell them and not do too shabby. I mean, 6 of them, $89.95. Who knew? Someone happened to have 10 packs of these, 30 rolls of discontinued certs, and they did get $150 for these. Pretty amazing. And although I personally don't understand why 300 count packs, I guess so, what, 2,400 dum-dums would sell for $116, they can. And in case you're wondering if that was a fluke, here we have more Spangler's dum-dums selling for $124.99. I just remember getting dum-dum lollipops in the bank growing up. Like, we would go to the bank, my mother would make her deposit, and then the teller would give 2 dum-dums, one for me, one for my sister, and it was just kind of a thing. I don't know if they still do that at places, but I guess it is nice to see that dum-dums are still around. Okay, admit it. You have 2 cases of these lying around in your attic. Just admit it. Because if you do, you could sell them for $180. Now, I would not like to ship these, but that is pretty cool that someone had 2 cases of flash bulbs in their original boxes. Just crazy to think about. Like, where is all this stuff? I mean, it's somewhere, right? It's just amazing that there's, across the country, these are sitting around somewhere, and if you can find them, you can make the money off them. All right, so I thought some of you would find these super cool. These are these confections where they're basically wax, and you open them up and you eat what's inside, right? If I remember correctly, that's how it goes. They weren't really a thing for me. I was born in the 70s, so this is a little earlier than me, but I remember seeing them over the years. Anyway, here we have a vintage box of them, and someone sold these, and the best offer, I checked it out on Watch Count. They accepted a best offer of, I believe it was $350 for the box of these. Oh, I'm sorry. What was I thinking? $450, not $350. Anyway, that was a great sell on that, and I'm sure that seller is very excited. And finally, if you see them around, and actually I've been pretty successful in seeing them from time to time at the local Weigh and Go here, if you can get your hands on old Christmas cards that are unused and still in their original boxes, you can do pretty gosh darn good. This person actually sold these at auction. He got 8 bids on one and 5 on the other set, and he got $53.80 plus $8 shipping. I think 6 on the other one, but that is pretty gosh darn good for an auction. And I haven't seen them too many around recently, but I have not been going out much. I have so much stuff here that I'm trying to get up and get moving. Plus I do Amazon. It's just been a real bear. But anyway, vintage Christmas cards that are not used do very well year round. And if you see them, go get them. All right, everybody, that is it for this week. I wish you well. I hope you get some good sales. And if you do get some good sales, let me know. I'm always happy to hear how other people are doing. Okay, everybody. Keep an eye out for good stuff and good hunting.